we're going to make side dots for the necks. And the way we're going to do that, I've got a 3/32 drill bit here, and on the back end of it I'm going to grind this off nice and flat. I'm just going to use my belt sander and grind it off like that, you know, kind of standing it up straight. Alright, and then we'll chuck it up in the drill press, and I've got an 1/8" thick piece of brass here, and we're going to drill a hole. I've already done it. I've already drilled the hole through. Then we will take the bit out. This piece of brass here is clamped down so it can't move, and we're going to turn the bit upside down and chuck it up nice and tight, and there is our punch. That's what we end up with. And there we have it. This portion here will get carved out, but this is what I'm concerned with, just so that angle is correct. Now we are going to finalize the profile of the neck. I'm just going to take you through a few things that I like to do that I think are really important for carving a neck. If you will notice, on all of these profile templates, the shape is similar, just gets bigger, but here on the fretboard edge, or the binding edge, it's just square. It just goes straight up, and that's fine. I don't really need this last 3/16 or 1/8 of an inch to exactly wrap around the way the binding will end up being, because it's hard to slip the template in, you know, onto the neck if that's built into the template. So that being said, the first thing I want to look at is the way I profile the binding. So first thing I'm going to do is take this file and file in a bevel all along. Right. So the idea here is that in the end, the area of the binding is going to be rounded over. And then after that, even, the very edges here, in between the nibs, will get a further little rounding over. This is so important for the feel of the neck. Okay, so now I have the first primary bevel cut into the binding, probably about right there. And I think you can see the light reflection now. There's my primary bevel. Putting just a pencil line on the edge of it so you can tell. And now I am just going to continue to file. I'm actually going to tip the file a little bit this way, just to take this facet out down the whole neck, and I'll do the same to the other side, and then we will move on to actually carving and refining the mahogany neck shaft. I'm going to level this area out so that it's nice and flat, nice and straight from one end to the other, and then on my subsequent carving I will never touch the center, which would diminish the thickness, right? Because we're at the final thickness at that point. Plus, 15, 20 thousandths of an inch, just for sanding, insurance, that kind of thing. So if we put the 3rd fret template on, we can see that the shoulders here are too heavy. And so that's where we'll carve, and we'll keep checking along with other templates. 5th fret. So we got the same thing going on there. 7th fret, 12th fret. All right, let's go ahead and carve. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The microplane, best hand carving tool for neck I've ever come across. Alright, so carve, we check. Yeah, lots to go on the shoulders, and that's cool. It's easy at this stage. Where we need to start being careful is once we start getting really close. When carving, I shut all the lights off in the room and only have one incandescent light. And this way I can move the light around, and the shadows tell me exactly, it tells me the whole story. Where to carve, where there are lumps and bumps. So what I'm doing here now is the transition here at the heel, and I do this in conjunction with doing the neck shaft because they kind of need to go down together at the same time, because we want a nice smooth transition, and it needs to happen everywhere and symmetrically. Right, so keep your thoughts on that kind of thing. Now with this tool I can either pull it like I am right now, or if I turn it around I can push it forward. Either way it cuts like so easily. Yep, that's getting close. I think I'll stop there, and now we'll work on the transition here at the headstock. Yeah, it's not bad. And we'll go on the other side. Again, we're looking for symmetry here. Alright, I'm getting close here. As you can see, this edge is still untouched. And it's really a kind of a delicate area, just this last little bit. So I'm not going to use the microplane because it's just too aggressive. I'm going to switch here to my scraper. Nicely newly burnished, and let's see. Oh, okay, so right away I can see that the grain is telling me, no, don't go that way, Fred. Go this way. And that looks pretty good right there. Let's see what my template says. Template looks good. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. I'm really close to the final contour now, and so I'm going to put away the microplane, and I'm going to get out some sandpaper. I'm going to use some 120 grit sandpaper, maybe 100 grit, we'll see how this goes. And I've got this sanding block that I made up. It's cork lined, it's fairly wide so that I can maintain some kind of straightness. I mean, the shorter the block, the more lumpy you could possibly get, right? And also, if you look at the edges of this, I've rounded the cork with, it looks like a 3/8 inch round over. I did it on a router. And that is so that when I get up to the contours here, on the heel, and here, at the headstock, it can actually facilitate some of the smoothness and the transition of the contour here. So, with this setup, what I'm going to do is back and forth, but actually on a skewed motion like this, so that I'm always rounding. And as I said before, I know that the thickness of the neck is really close to final thickness, so I'm avoiding the dead center, the back of the neck. That's quite good, actually. Let me take a look. Let me show you what I've got going on here. So, you can see that there's a little gap here at the top, right at the center, and it follows the curves fairly well. But since there's this gap, that means that these curves from here all the way down and here all the way down, everything needs to come down still more. And that's what we're going to do with the sandpaper. I've got a piece of rubber in here, 1/8 inch thick, and I'm wrapping it around 120 grit sandpaper. Now this rubber is just stiff enough that if I push it down into the contour, it will conform to the contour. Or I can make this a little bit smaller, a tighter radius than the actual contour by squishing it like that with my finger. And that's what I'm going to do here. And so I can use this as kind of a carving tool. Oh, it looks like it's coming along. And I attack it from different angles, you know. Sometimes it's this way. Obviously there's a curve that way. But it's a compound. It's a complex compound curve. Not only is it curving this way, but it's also curving down a ramp this way. So I will also go this way. Always keeping in mind that I don't want to end up screwing up the transition between this curve here and the shaft. So, meaning I don't want to end up carving this so much that it goes below the level of this where the two transition points attach, right? It's a little dance. A little bit here, a little bit there. And it's looking like it's getting nice and close. Yeah, I'd say that we're just about there. All right, I like it. So I'm going to leave that and go to do the other side. And again, Same procedure. The tough part is making it symmetrical. Actually, I can see a little bit of a zaw right there that I gotta get, and I will. I think I might use a little bit of stiffer piece of rubber just to creep up on this without rounding over this edge here. I don't want to distort any of the edges. We're going to knock these edges over slightly at the very end. Some crisp contour shaping, and this is the instrument to do it. Now I'm going to go back and forth between this and the sandpaper. Time to install the logo. The logo is mother of pearl. It's 65 thousandths of an inch thick. I've got it outlined, penciled in here on the headstock, and I'm going to use this spiral down cut bit in my Makita laminate trimmer. So here we go. And it slips in nicely. This West System stuff is so easy to use because it's just one pump of the resin and one pump of the hardener. Done. And we mix that up. I'm just going to add some of this right away. I'm going to let that cure 24 hours and then level it with a file and sandpaper. 24 hours later, epoxy is hard as a rock. I'm going to file the excess off, and the reason I'm using a file is because the file tends to skip over this smooth flat surface of the holly here and just bite into this protruding bit of epoxy here. So let's give it a go. Now that I've got the bulk of the epoxy off, I will finish up by sanding with 220 grit sandpaper. So it looks like I've got a couple of tiny pinholes in the epoxy, but that easy to fix. What I'm going to do is first I blew out any of the dust from the sanding with compressed air, and now I'm just going to apply some thin super glue to the area where the pinholes are. Put a couple of layers on there and it will disappear. So as always, when doing any kind of drilling operation like this, I've got the point, the brad of the drill bit set so that the depth stop of the drill press is just so that the brad pokes through the back of the workpiece, which in this case, here are the holes. And these tiny holes give me a perfect guide to drill from the back side. This is totally to prevent tear out when drilling. Many people don't realize that these modern tuning machines, this bushing right here is actually tapered. It's wider down here at the base. This is reading 386 thousandths of an inch. And up here this reads 375. So a taper of about 10 thousandths of an inch from there to there. In order to make this a nice snug fit, I'm going to use this reamer from Stuart McDonald and just give the hole a little bit of a ream. Won't take much. Nice and snug. That's what I want. Couple of pieces of 1/8 inch rubber, nice flexibility, and I wrap 220 grit sandpaper around it. What I'm doing is making sure that the contours here are flowing and smooth. I don't want to feel any kind of ripple or anything like that. And the reason I'm putting 2 of these rubber pieces in here is because I don't want it to distort this way. And when I wrap the sandpaper around it, it's kind of stiff laterally. It holds its shape. I want it to be flat across this way, not rounded over. Right? That feels pretty good. Just going to finish it off with a bit of scraper blade, just to take any of the hair off the fibers. I scrape with the direction of the grain. And this also cleans up sanding marks off the plastic binding as well. The scraper leaves a beautiful, nice, smooth finish on the plastic binding. Okay, wow, that was a whole long day of sanding and detailing. Getting the prep just right before finishing is crucial. So I spend a lot of time on that, and I make sure everything's perfect. Now, one last thing I want to show you is the resonance of each of these necks. I hope this camera mic can hear it, but I'm going to tap. So as you can hear, this one is a little bit lower in pitch, and that's okay because I think this piece of wood might be slightly less dense than the other two, but they're really in the same ballpark. And really what I'm listening for is the purity of the tone. What this is telling me, all 3 of these necks, is that they've got a nice resonance, they ring, and especially they have no the truss rod is in there tight. The truss rod is not rattling. You'd hear that right away. So let's fit these necks in. So that's still snug, very snug. All of these are quite snug, which is great. Actually a little too snug for when we actually go to glue them in, because I don't want, you know, to scrape the glue off the side of the wall just by pushing them in. But it's better to have them snug now. I can always take the tenons down a little bit, just a little bit, so that I get a kind of nice snug fit, but not too snug. Ah, look at that. 3 pretty maids all in a row. So what I'm going to do is just shave the tenon down a tiny bit with a scraper blade. Yep, nice and freshly cut on both sides. I can see it. And we'll try a test fit. It's a little bit better, but still a bit snug. Now, I'll probably have to go through this a couple of times, but the way I can tell where it's fitting tight is after I scrape it clean and shove it in the body, where it's tight there are some shiny spots, like just the wood gets a little bit burnished. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. There's one right there. So we'll just attack that area more with the scraper. And I see it right here in the corner. It fits just beautifully. Still snug, but not overly snug. I mean, if I try to wiggle the neck from side to side, there's absolutely no lateral movement. So this is just about what I want. Okay, so now I'm just going to mask off around the body so I don't have too much excess glue all over to clean up, and then we'll hit it with glue. We are gluing the necks today. Got some hot hide glue cooking. I got everything prepared to go, and my mom's going to be helping me today. Say hello.
Hi. That's her mom.
Don't forget to keep dipping your brush in to keep the glue hot.
Just a minute.
That's good. I've got enough here.
Okay. I did it. Som nästan ut.
All right. There we go. That's good. Push down.
Lots of. My muscles.
Yeah, you got the big muscles. That one. And one more here. Oh, I got lots of squeeze out on this one.
Yeah, yes, and bucket. Oh, gee, that's nice.
There we go.
There you go.
And that's done.
Okay, now, again, you need half an hour.
Yeah. Yep,
Yeah?
looks good.
Okay.
Perfect. Yep, thank you.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
And now I'm just going to take a damp rag and
Yes,
clean up this squeeze out here.
Yes. Just, I'm right here. Another 20 minutes you need?
Another 20 minutes or so, sure. We'll do the next one.
Okay.
Oh, that looks great. Nice looking joint. Let's turn it over. Perfection. Very pleased. All glued up, ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow, you can still see some of the water on the top from cleaning this residue up. That top's going to look gorgeous. Of course, they all will. That one's dry. As I was saying, tomorrow we're going to route the pickup cavities and locate and drill the holes for the bridges and tail pieces. And then it'll be ready for finishing. So we're on the home stretch. Finally looking like a decent day out here. Got Mom's garden. Alright, so they're fresh out of the clamps, and all of the joints look nice, good and tight. Let's just check the resonance on these guys. I'm going to hold it here at the 4th fret and give it a bang here. See if you can hear this. That's that one. Let's try the next one. And the last one. So this is the box jig that we made up for routing the pickups at the correct plane, or in our case a plane of 4.5 degrees, which corresponds to the same angle of the neck set. So the guitar will sit in this box, and it's made to fit the guitar body perfectly. Width and length, it's tight. And here there's an opening for the neck, and this keeps everything centered. And then we have 2 templates. This one will be for the actual pickup route, and this one will be for the pickup leg routes. So let me pop the guitar into the jig, and we'll get going. There we go. And it's tight, it doesn't move. No lateral movement, no movement at all. That's perfect. Now both of these templates have screw holes that are aligned and indexed together so that everything will line up. Whoops, that's the wrong way. So we screw that on here and route. You can see I've got a double bearing on this bit, and that is so that as I go deeper and there's that gap in between the template and the body, there's still a bearing riding on the template. Alright, now we got the template for the pickup, the body of the pickup, and here we go. And there we have our first one.